Assalaamu Alaikum and welcome to the Muslim Gamers Podcast, the official podcast of the largest Discord server for Muslim gamers. My name is Faraj, and joining me today are Laughing Man and Nael. Assalamu Alaikum.
Assalamu Alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform of choice, as it'll really help us out. And if you haven't joined the Discord server, go ahead and do that. There's some really cool stuff in there for you. So, my beloved co-hosts, Nael and Laughing Man, how are y'all doing today?
Been doing all right.
Besides the summer heat, not too bad.
Yeah, see, that's why I'm getting in the mood for like with my like Hawaiian t-shirt looking shirt. Well, it's the only way for me to just not think about the heat.
Think vacation.
Exactly,
you know what? Have
think
completed
vacation.
your getup. You should have been in this episode holding a coconut and drinking from the coconut.
I have my chai here. Does that count? No, not really.
No,
But,
it's hot.
Not quite.
I mean, I'm from the part of India where on the hottest days we'll still drink, piping hot chai. So,
How do you people do that? I know a guy. He does the same thing. He drinks hot tea, and I prefer cold beverages. The only hot beverage I can do is hot chocolate if it's like cold outside, raining, cold outside.
My sister.
I don't know how you guys do it.
She only drinks hot coffee.
see, when I first moved here to the U.S., I was 16 years old, and it was still like the whole idea of cold teas or cold coffee or iced coffee, caffeinated beverages like that was still very like icky to me. Even when people had like, oh, iced chai tea latte, it's like, hey man, you're basically, desecrating my own. It's blasphemous to my culture, man, to have anything like that. But I mean, I've since grown okay with it. But my chai, I still like to have it nice and. I mean, at least at a cool enough temperature to where it doesn't burn my tongue. I mean, a hot enough temperature, but it's not too hot where it's burning my tongue. But hey,
Fair
that's just
enough.
me. Yeah. Speaking of hot tea, I don't know if that's even a thing that kids talk about. But let's go ahead and get started with
the
the
tea
episode.
is gossip and drama, then,
Okay, that's what.
yeah.
Okay, but okay, that's actually. So we're gonna have a slight change in our format, listeners and viewers. We're gonna get into our not gossip and drama because obviously it's not Islamically appropriate. But we're gonna talk about our news in our next segment. We'll start out actually talking about, since we're Muslim gamers, talk about the games we've been playing. So you know what, Laughing Man, why don't you go first this time?
Okay. So after about, because it took me about, it came out beginning of July, and I finished it just this morning. After 138 hours, I finally finished the latest Trails game, Trails Through Daybreak.
138
And-
hours.
So the reason it took me this long is, one, I was playing it kind of by pieces because I've been busy over the summer.
Okay.
And the second reason is Trails is one of those games where you have NPCs that you talk to, and then day goes to night, each NPC's dialogue completely changes. You don't have to talk to them, it's optional.
Okay.
But if you talk to them, it adds additional lore, info about the world and stuff.
Okay.
And I've been doing this since every Trails game. For reference, the first Trails game, it has more words than the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy combined because of that's how much text it has.
Laughing Man loves his lore.
I do love my lore. I can recite all of Trails' history, politics, everything off the top. I could give a lecture on it at this point, since I played all 10, 11 games back to back.
Wow.
So yeah, that's what I've played, and this one is my new favorite Trails game because compared to the previous entries, I'm surprised this game has a T rating. It should have a mature rating. It is very dark, very mature. The protagonist is a 24-year-old guy. JRPG protagonists are usually like, I'm a 16-year-old, I'm
Right.
a chosen one, I'm going to
Mhm.
save the world. No, this guy's a 24-year-old, and he's a fixer, so he does shady things for a living. The real quick example, there's one scene where he saves a bunch of people from monsters, and then he goes, all right, hey, bus driver, I'm going to charge your company as payment. They're like, what? The cops would never do that. He's like, yeah, I'm not a cop. I got bills to pay.
Okay.
So he literally saves people and then charges them money. So I finished that, and now my next goal is I have some stuff on my list. I'm gonna play two cyberpunk indie games. One's called Nobody Wants to Die, which is like a detective. It's a first-person detective style game. It's set in a cyberpunk setting, and the second one is more of like a visual novel-y thing. It's a lot more indie, and that one is called Minds Beneath Us. So if you guys are into the cyberpunk genre like I am, I've played almost every cyberpunk game, indie, AAA that's out there.
Nice.
You might like these.
Since you've played almost every cyberpunk game out there, what were your thoughts on the Ascent if you ever played that?
The Ascent is one of the few I haven't played yet, and the
Really?
main
Okay.
reason, the main reason is okay. I always go for stories and games, like Niall said earlier. I'm all about the lore, and I heard the Ascent story is kind of all right.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not super. The cyberpunk games I go towards, they're very philosophical, touch on themes of transhumanism. What does it mean to be human? What is the meaning of existence? Stuff like that. I heard that one is more like it's a fun, entertaining, like twin stick shooter.
Basically.
I do plan to. I do want to play it because I've heard good things about it. But I've heard the story is decent. It's okay-ish, which is why it's kind of been at the end of my priority list.
The story and the overall stability of the game, it's not very, like, the bugs are still pretty
It has
bad.
bugs.
Oh yeah. On the Steam Deck, it kept crashing. Not that it's a game that was built for the Steam Deck, but when I
Yeah.
played it on PC, there was one part that I had to repeat for some reason because I played it on Game Pass and then I played it outside of Game Pass, so I had to repeat that part. And there was like
Oh
a
wow.
not a game breaking bug, but there was a bug that didn't even trigger one of the events that would proceed the mission forward.
Yeah.
And the only fix for that is basically restarting your save. And I'm like, yeah, I'm done with this. I'm
Oh
not
my God.
coming back to this. So
Damn.
yeah, I was just curious if you ever got a chance to try that out or not.
Well now,
Yeah,
now
you don't
that's
have
put
to,
even
honestly.
further on the
Yeah.
bottom of the list. Now.
Yeah, if you literally run out of games to play, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of worse games out there, but there's a lot of better games out there to play as well.
King Kong.
As we went over our lists, the previous episode, we know we have plenty of games to play.
Oh yeah.
The,
If you haven't checked that out yet.
besides, sorry you had to go through the Ascent. What are you playing, Faraj, currently?
Me, so you know me, I have video game ADHD, so I'm just always jumping through so many different things. There's games that I committed to playing and completing and not starting another game, like not having more than 3 games that I'm playing currently and then moving. And then I added a little addendum to that where it's like, okay, but it's 3 games per system and I own multiple platforms. So and then yeah, it's just after a while, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna play what I enjoy playing. So I've been going through a lot of Diablo 4's new-ish season. It's not new anymore. It has been a pretty fun season. It's not something where I'd say you'd want to go through the campaign first and then do the end game stuff. But it's still a lot of fun. Like once I finished the campaign and I'm starting the end game stuff, that's when I'm getting a lot of the better loot and it's making the game a lot more fun. I prefer to play as a sorcerer. Last season I played as a fireball with the fireball build. Now I have a chain lightning build, which is very it's very satisfying just to see, you know, your lightning sparks just go through enemies and just decimate them. It's been very entertaining. I also got a chance to check out the demo for Contra Operation Kaluga. Have either of you guys played the OG Contra back in the NES?
I had an
Yeah.
SNES that was handed down to me when I was like a child. So yeah, Contra was one of the games.
I
enjoyed.
played on. It was called the Doctor Boy. It was one of those things that you bought that had like 1,000 games on
Yeah.
it, all the classics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had one of those from some swap meet.
Yeah, same here. That's kind of how I got my intro to Contra. But Operation Galuga, I didn't realize this is actually, I believe, it is a full-on remake of the first game with like completely modern graphics. Even
2D or 3D?
2.5D. So it's you play in a
Ooh,
2D
okay.
plane of like side scrolling.
Yeah.
But it's all in 3D graphics. It's very gorgeous. It played really well on the Steam Deck. You can even choose like special abilities for your character, lower the difficulty down, which, you know, was very appealing to me because I didn't feel like going through it. And you also can choose between like getting hit, dying with a 1-hit kill, or if
Oh,
you want to
wow.
have like a slight health bar where it's like takes like 3 or 4 hits for you to lose a life. So that was very much a lot of fun for me. It's just the demo that I played. The full game is actually, it is a little pricey for what it is. It's $40. But I think it's a very fun, especially if you're playing in co-op. It can be a lot of fun. The demo doesn't go to. I don't know if you guys remember the levels where it's kind of like top down or like from behind. You're shooting at what's in front of you,
Mhm.
like the underground levels. It didn't go that far, so I don't know what that looks like in the game. But it was, for what I saw, had me interested enough to at least add it to my wish list.
Is
So maybe
the
I'll pick it
is
up
the
on that.
co-op is the co-op like couch co-op or
I
online or
think it's
both?
only couch co-op, if I'm not
Okay,
mistaken. I didn't look into that.
cool.
I would be surprised if they didn't have online co-op, but you never know these
And
days.
If
plus,
it,
it's a demo. You can't be sure.
yeah,
Exactly.
they
Yeah.
might add it later on.
Yeah. And of course, those weren't the only games I played because I have issues and can't stick to just playing one game or just a couple of games and try to beat the game. Um, I've kind of got into a little bit more of a sim racing kick lately. For those of you that don't know, I love sim racing. I actually have a dedicated sim racing setup in my garage. It's not hardcore to where I have like a direct drive wheel with triple monitors. It's just a big screen TV with the PS4 and Logitech steering wheel, but it's mounted to this metal chassis. I don't even know if it's like steel or stainless steel or whatever, but it's sturdy enough to where it doesn't wake up the neighbors. It doesn't break apart, with the higher forces of the wheel. And on PS4, I've been playing a bit of Gran Turismo 7, and I had a friend of mine bring his PS5 with PSVR 2, and I got to try that out there as well.
Oh,
Mm.
And
how is that? How is PS VR2?
so I only got to try that game. I didn't really do any other game. They don't have a lot of games on PSVR 2 anyway. But I for Gran Turismo 7, it was actually really good. Um, People think Gran Turismo was kind of like a heavy simulator type game. It's not.
It's
It's more of like on the Simcade scale. It
it's
leans a little bit towards simulator, but it's not like as
mm,
hardcore as something like a Assetto Corsa or iRacing. But and in VR it was a lot of fun, but sometimes the car doesn't behave like the way you want it to, so it took a little getting used to. What I loved about it was how plug and play the VR setup was for PSVR. It's just USB-C. You plug it in, you plug in your headset. There's just a little bit of setup as far as like mapping your environment, just for safety's sake. And we didn't even need to use like the PSVR controllers. We just used the dual sense to get set up into the game. And with the wheel, it was like you feel like you're in a real car. But me being the crazy guy that I am, it's not my first experience in VR racing because I have an Oculus Quest 2 or Meta Quest 2. That's what they're calling it now. And sometimes I carry my desktop PC to the garage, hook it up there to play some PC VR games, PC racing games. And yeah, one I've been really enjoying a lot, even though I'm not really that good at it, is Assetto Corsa Competizione. It is this Italian game dev company that made this game called Assetto Corsa, and Competizione is like their second game
mm,
that focuses more on the GT racing. They have it's not Formula One, but it's like maybe I wouldn't even call it a step, but it's like a completely different series entirely, where it's real manufacturer cars that they just modify for racing on the track, and it's a lot of fun and it feels very good. And since my friend never tried PC VR, he tried that out, and in his opinion, that was a lot better than Gran Turismo 7 in VR. So on a PS5. So I was like, okay, cool. Got a little confirmation there that I don't need to spend another $600-ish plus another $500 on a PS5 and PSVR 2. So at least I'm safe there. Um, and I don't know why I did this to myself, but um uh with some of the shows I've been watching, I've been wanting to get into like a fantasy RPG kick, and I'm not a turn-based guy, so I decided, okay, let me go ahead and start Witcher 3.
mm.
I
First
have
time?
started it before. I know it's a
Okay.
game that's been out for nearly a decade, 2015. And I have started it before, but I've only started it on console. My first time playing it was on an Xbox One. Didn't I don't know, it just didn't grab me. And then on my brother-in-law's PS5, once the next gen update came out for Witcher 3, I tried out there, and I'm like, it doesn't really, like, I got past fighting the Griffin that you fight in the first part of the game.
Yeah.
And then after this, like, I don't really feel like continuing. Like, I felt like I was forcing myself to play.
Mm.
And then they gave it for free on GOG, or I think it was on GOG a while back.
Mhm.
And I've had it in my library for a long time and decided, okay, let me just see how it is on PC, with my ultra wide and all that. And man, that game, it feels like a completely different game on PC for some reason.
Mm.
I feel like it was, I think there were a lot of complaints when the game came out too, that it felt like the game felt designed for PC, so it was a little tougher for
Yeah.
console players to get
Yep.
into. So
Yep.
on PC, it felt natural. Like even playing with mouse and keyboard, like I don't want to play with a controller. Normally, a game like this, third person action adventure, I'd rather play with the controller, but this one I actually only want to play with mouse and keyboard. So that has been really good there. And I didn't get too far just because of time constraints. I'm a father of two, and I also have an issue with not being able to stick with one video game. So, yeah, I definitely am planning on getting back to that.
All right.
Do you like your RPGs with like a party, or because Witcher you control a singular character?
Right.
I was gonna suggest, if you like party-based RPGs and you want that fantasy kick, you could give the Dragon Age series when the new game comes out.
So I
On
do already have
Halloween.
all three of the games.
Okay.
I
Oh
think,
well.
yeah. So it's just a matter of me going through it. I started
Fair.
Origins on PC a long time ago, went through like the first two quests, and then for some reason never got back into it. I mean, we've talked about our piles of shame last
Yeah, yeah.
episode.
No, I get you.
Yeah, and I just have trouble with trying to stick with one and just completing it. I really do want to do that with more games. Oh, you know what? There was a game that I finally beat last night, although it is a game at this point is pushing, but it's about 20 years old at this point. Need for Speed Underground 2. I
All
finally
right.
beat it on the Steam Deck, and let me tell you this: with the Steam Deck, like how much I love that thing. I'm just gonna share a quick personal story. My dad has been in the hospital for a few months, and when I go to visit him, sometimes he's sleeping, and there isn't really much for me to do other than me just kind of waiting around for him to wake up. And I take my Steam Deck with me, and just play there. And I got to the very last race. Like I've been playing it for a while, but I got to the very last race when I was there with him, and I was able to, I didn't have to worry about like, oh, I need to quit the game or whatever. I just paused it, put it to sleep, spend time with him, and then after taking care of everything with him, and then got back home, I just sat on the couch, turned my Steam Deck back on, and finished that race. And it's like, congratulations, you beat the game. It's like, yes, finally. I stuck with one game for 2 months, even though it's a game that probably doesn't take 2 months. And I also beat it on hard, which I'm
Mm.
pretty proud
Oh
about.
wow.
So yeah, and
Nice.
especially if you know anything about arcade racers back then, it's all about the rubber banding, where the AI just the harder difficulty doesn't increase their skill; it just increases how much of an unfair advantage they get with just their cars unnaturally speeding up to catch up to you. But I've been rambling for a very long time, so let me stop right there. Nael, tell us about what you've been playing.
Yeah, well, sometimes my ADHD kicks in and I end up on the other end with just focusing on one game, hyper
Yeah, I'd
focusing.
rather have that, to be honest, just so I can get through my games.
So I've been playing Spider-Man, the new
Marvel
somewhat
Spider-Man.
trilogy. Yeah, Marvel
Yeah.
Spider-Man, Insomniac, right? I think.
Yes,
Yeah,
Insomniac.
Insomniac Spider-Man, and it's been so fun. I've been playing on the Steam Deck, uh, and I've just been grinding
Oh, you've
it.
been
But
playing the Steam Deck. Wait, how's
but
it performing?
it's really good. It's not heating up as much as playing
Ratchet and Clank?
Ratchet and Clank was, but it does drain the battery faster,
Okay.
I think, even though it's not heating up. So pros and cons somehow. I don't know. But
Did you
I mean,
tinker with the settings at all to try to like maybe lower the
little,
TDP?
yeah, I have. So I think I can lock it in a little bit more to get it more ideal. But I mean, I'm playing at home, so whatever. I'll just plug it in. But yeah,
You
the
you
wrists are starting to get to me. I'm like, okay, I can't play like 4 hours straight. I have to take like breaks.
have you looked into that deck made pillow?
That
The
Uh
was
deck
that was
made
so funny.
pillow.
I did consider it, but I was like, no, I really shouldn't be playing that much at one point anyway. I should take a break and take care of life.
yeah.
Um,
I mean,
so
even if you're playing for like an hour or less than an hour with the
yeah,
pillow, it's
it'll
putting less
reduce your
strain on your
strain,
wrist,
for sure,
overall, think about, your future,
for sure,
once
for sure.
you reach your, golden years and all that, See,
Yeah, but it's
yeah.
been a lot of fun. I finished. I think like 75% or so of the game.
Oh, nice.
And I think there's some DLCs that I need to work through too. But it's I love it. Reminded me of the old like PS2 Spider-Man games, which like I had so much fun
Hmm.
playing. I just and those are like even though they weren't that open world, it has that same feeling, of just swinging around New York and doing whatever you want.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Have you tried fast traveling yet?
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
fast travel, but
Okay.
like it's just fun to swing
Yeah.
around.
Oh yeah. Same here. And
Plus, like you are incentivized to swing around because like you have to like stop the crimes and things like that. So
exactly.
it's like
Exactly.
okay, if
Yeah.
it's not super far, I'll just like swing to there.
There are some fun things that happen when you fast travel. I don't know if it's in the first one, might be in the second one, where
Mm.
you're literally sitting next to another dude cosplaying as Spider-Man, and it's like funny. They're
Oh
both like looking at
yes,
each other.
yeah. I
It's
think
literally the Spider-Man meme.
it's like yeah. You're on the train and it's you talking to the other guy
Hmm.
dressed as you.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and I think it's meant to be the guy who was like pretending to be you in one of the missions, and you have to like rescue him.
I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I played that. My son was just born that year, so I remember playing it sometimes when he was having like tougher nights when I just play to just make sure or I'd play in a different room, or you know what? No, no, no. I shouldn't lie. I was playing in the same room that he was sleeping in, but I had headphones on. And
Okay,
sometimes when he'd
yeah.
wake up crying, I'd be like, all right, fine. Let me just, you know what? Just
Pause
a
it.
little bit. Let me swing. No, no, no. I'm not going to pause yet. I'm going to swing a little bit more. It's not painting me as the best father, as father of the year, but I got to be honest there.
It's okay. It's called self-soothing, right?
Uh,
Um, so yeah, after I finish this, I'll play Miles Morales and then wait for the second one to get ported over eventually.
yeah. Yeah. There have been some leaks of it, them having actually a PC port that somewhat works.
I'm sure it'll come out soon,
I
Yeah.
wouldn't.
but
I
probably not till next year at the
I'm not
very
I'm not
soonest.
recommending anyone to go try that
no no
PC
no.
port at all.
Especially don't get those because it's straight up illegal. Like this,
Yeah,
there
it's
was a
illegal.
ransomware hack,
Yeah.
and what they did was they got enough of. There was a data of Spider-Man 2, and then from the leak, people managed to build like a mostly functional PC port,
Hmm.
but it's straight up downloading it is straight up illegal.
Hmm.
Like, and
Yeah,
it's not like piracy, pirate films. Like, no, this is straight up illegally hacked, confidential,
Hmm.
like corporate material, like trade secrets, basically. And plus, if you try to download it, you would have to go to like super shady sites. So
Yeah.
yeah, it does
it's
exist, but
it's it's not your average pulling of a game from one of
yeah,
those
it's not like
sites.
Yeah.
let me pirate an old
This
like
this
Arnold
game was
Schwarzenegger
stolen
film.
and then distributed.
Exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
surprised that it still exists, like videos of it still exist on YouTube, of people trying it out and showing like different specs of different PCs being able to handle, such a port.
YouTube doesn't. So with that, YouTube doesn't really crack down on that. You can literally find like YouTube videos on like, this is how you jailbreak this game console, this device.
Yeah, no,
Here's
I'm
how
talking
you
about no, I'm
install.
talking about because usually it would be a DMCA notice coming from the copyright holder.
Oh,
So
right, right.
yeah, so that's what I'm
It
talking
could be
about.
they didn't. It could be they didn't notice it. DMCA notices are also like, especially on YouTube, they're
Yeah,
automated
It's
nowadays.
yeah, most
So
of it is automated. So if it's like, oh, it's just another Spider-Man game, they'll just label it as like
the
one of the
filter
first or
probably
second
didn't notice
probably,
it.
Spider-Man game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
probably, yeah. So now, yeah, just wait for Spider-Man 2. Full
exactly.
disclosure, that game was one that I had, the reverse ADD on, where I had a 2 week vacation and literally just played through it and platinumed it in about like 8 days. My first
Oh
ever
wow,
platinum. Yeah.
Nice.
So I can finish
nice.
games. I can finish games.
You just got to be in the zone.
Exactly, exactly.
Just got to be on vacation in the zone, like
Yeah.
and wear a Hawaiian t-shirt.
Exactly. See, this is gonna be my new gamer shirt now. It's gonna have all my gamer funk on it. My wife is gonna absolutely love that. All right, let's go ahead and jump into some of the news stories. You know what, Nael, why don't you go first this time?
Sure. I did any of you guys watch the new Borderlands movie?
Am I allowed to say hell no?
I think you are.
Yeah, I mean, I love Borderlands, but it's not something that needed a movie. Even
Yeah,
the trailer was
I'm a
like,
big fan of
I
Borderlands, but it just it just didn't sit right with
Okay,
me.
I disagree with
And I
Faraj
think
here
I think the
in that.
fans the fans agreed because they made something like 9 million in the opening weekend, and their budget it was like 140,
Something like
145
that.
million, something like that.
Yeah. Wait,
So
Yeah.
what were you saying, Laughing Man, about disagreeing with me?
okay, the movie is crap. Like no mincing meat about that. Um, I disagree that Borderlands didn't need a movie. I think Borderlands it's perfect material for a movie. It's a Mad Max style space western setting, and it's super slapstick humor. Doesn't take itself seriously. Um, like it has a lot of dark humor. Like you meet a character, it's like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just gonna chop his head off, and like they chop their head off. It's perfect. The
The,
problem
You meet a guy
is
named
that
Shooty McShootface and who wants you to shoot him in the face.
exactly. You meet
exactly.
a guy named Three Toes or Nine
Yeah.
Toes
Nine
or
Toes.
whatever.
Yeah.
Nine Toes, yeah. The problem is who they picked for the cast. One of my friends, he's a huge Borderlands fan. He straight up called it. He was like, "Why did they cast Kevin Hart as Roland? Roland, Roland is a
You,
tall,
Roland is
charismatic.
yeah,
soldier.
you need someone
He's
like
a soldier.
Mahershala Ali or someone.
You need Terry Crews.
No, bigger.
Bring,
Oh, yeah. Terry
He's
Crews.
soldier. He's
Terry
big,
Crews, yeah.
bulky,
like
loud. Yeah.
And Terry Crews, he's played in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He's played like a serious but comical, like
Right.
leader,
He would have been
like
perfect.
character.
Yeah.
He would have been perfect. But they bring in Kevin Hart because I guess the casting director was like, "Oh, this is a comedy. Kevin Hart, he's Black American and he's a comedian." I
Well-
don't know what they're.
Well, for the most part, a lot of
mindset.
these like adaptations from a different source material, no one in that crew, the director, writers, are actually
Yeah.
even familiar with the source material at all.
And
So it's like,
they often actively choose to ignore it,
Yeah.
which is
that part doesn't make any sense to me.
which is insane because Borderland has so much lore. Like even though
Yeah.
it's like a just a looter shooter, but like sometimes it's fun to go around like talk to all the NPCs and just read all the things that you find. Even the gear and the weapon that you find, they have like their own background stories.
Oh yeah,
which is so fun. And
Yeah.
each faction, each company, and everything has its own story. So there's so much that they could have touched on, but they just kind of were like, yeah, let's kind of Guardians of Galaxy it and just kind of phone it in.
yeah. I mean,
And
okay,
I think
I
if
can see
they-
that point. Okay,
If they had a better cast, I think the only casting that got positive reviews was what's her name, Kate Blanchett
Yeah.
as Lilith. That people enjoyed that, but everyone else was like, "Yeah, this character was miscast." Tannis, she's that a quirky scientist.
Mhm.
She's supposed to be like in her 30s, but they who
Yeah, they
get,
got what's her
name?
face? Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Great actor.
She's not.
But it didn't make
She's
sense
a great
for
actress,
this role.
but
Yeah.
yeah. And then they got Jack Black to voice act the Claptrap, and that was kind of mixed. But I haven't seen it, but this is just what I've read from some friends who watched it and like reviews. But hey, now it's on streaming platforms, so everyone can
Form
check
opinions.
it out without spending a movie ticket and popcorns at the concession stand.
Yeah, true. I guess. I mean, you're still spending the electricity to watch it, so I don't know if you want to put yourself through that, and the time too.
I don't know about you guys, but
It's
I
an
have a
airplane
group of
movie.
friends.
There you go.
Or you do what I do. I have a specific group of friends. We get together and we watch bad films for fun.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we talk. Normally, I'm one of those like, do not anyone who talks during a film, they should step on a Lego. But if it's a bad film, like
You have to talk. You
Tommy
have to
was
laugh.
you
Oh,
have
yeah.
to laugh. You gotta do commentary. This is perfect for that group. This is literally perfect for that group.
See, I've already seen one of the worst movies of 2024 already.
Which one?
It's an Indian movie. It's literally called Indian 2 or Hindustani 2, depending on the region that it got released in.
Wait, hold on.
What?
Wait, you guys didn't know that there was a movie called Indian and it
No.
has a sequel?
I don't.
Indian
I
2?
don't. I don't keep up with like Bollywood stuff really, unless it's like super big that it's reached into Hollywood mainstream. News outlets.
This isn't that. So me talking about this is really showing off how fobby I am, how fresh off the boat I am. I may not be fresh off the boat, but I did get off a boat, not literally got off a plane 13 years ago, 14 years ago. So there's a lot of my culture still rooted in me. So Indian was a movie that came out in like in the Tamil language in South India, and I actually I remember watching that movie when I was little. I think it came out like 96 or 97. I was like maybe 7 years old watching it.
Wait, so they made a sequel
Just
like
like 30 years later.
Yeah, literally
2-3
like
decades later?
exactly. Which first off, it was not a sequel anyone asked for. Because the movie didn't end in a way where it's like, okay, it's gonna have a sequel afterwards.
Right.
But the first movie is actually really good. I mean, people will say, oh, Bollywood movies are so cheesy. There's a guy that can fight off 1,000 dudes or whatever. It's still got a nice story. It's kind of like a bit of has a little bit of Indian patriotism about fighting against oppression, and then now dealing with corruption in our own country. So there is that nice story there, and they just basically this dude finishes his job, and then the second movie is whatever he did didn't really matter, but everyone remembers him. But this second movie is just so bad that I don't want to spend any more time on this podcast talking about it. But I just want to say, if you enjoy bad movies, maybe
Watch
that could
Indian
be
too.
Indian too, yeah.
Okay.
Or Hindustani too, depending on which title, because they'd released it in different regions of India, and depending on the language, that's what you got. All right. So, Laughing Man, why don't you tell us about your new story?
So it's not super fresh news anymore. It's a little couple of weeks, maybe almost close to a month old, but I think it's worth looking into, and it's kind of interesting as well. So the new game huge success, it broke Steam record numbers, Black Myth Wukong. It's not a Souls-like as much as a lot of people try to call it a Souls-like. I haven't played it myself yet because I already have a list.
Watching the gameplay feels more God of War.
Yes. Yeah, that's what my friends that's what my friends have mentioned. The only Souls-like similarity is that you rest at a place, you get fully healed up, your healing flask recharges everything, and then the grunt enemies respawn. That's about it. But other than that, the grunt enemies are all a joke. It's all about boss fights. The whole game is like a giant boss rush. But we're not here to talk about the game. I'm here to talk a little bit about Game Science Studios, the Chinese developers that made Black Myth Wukong. So before Black Myth Wukong, which is their first big AAA success, Game Science Studios, they're basically an indie studio, and they basically made mobile app games, because in East Asia, mobile app games with the microtransactions, they're extremely popular because game consoles and PCs are expensive, so a lot of people, they prefer portable consoles, which is another reason the Switch sells so well. So before Black Myth Wukong's release, Game Science Studios, they came under controversy because several members of the dev team, they made really misogynistic, kind of weird remarks, and I'll go through some of them.
Where did they make these remarks? On social media? Or
Chinese social media. Because China, WeChat. Because of the Great Firewall, as it's called, they have their own social media and stuff, their own they call it, I think, Weibo.
There's
WeChat as well. There's a few,
but
it's all heavily monitored.
Yeah, exactly. So some of the comments he's made, and for the audience of this chat, I won't be too explicit. I'll get into a little bit of it's a little bit mature. Some of the things he's said. One developer, he basically he wrote this long rant, but to sum up what he said, he basically said there are games that are only for boys and there are games only for girls, and these are due to Now, if he said, oh, it's because of the way guys and girls are socialized, that would be one thing. But he said, no, it's due to biological differences. He said, guys, we want to beat things up, we want to kill, we want to, get glory. And then he said, girls, they just want to play games where you buy dresses, shiny handbags, and fashion. And then he said, because that's all girls want to do. They want to buy shiny handbags and make their friends jealous. And
oh man,
and his point was, he's like, we make games for men. These aren't games basically meant for women. And then he went on a little bit of a rant saying that if he was gonna be, he's like, screw, tragic love stories, romance, all of these. He's like, us men, we already have enough stress in real life. That's why we play games. We want to feel glorious and, power fantasy and all that. And then the really funny part, which I'll read this part. I'm gonna quote this part. He says from the translation, if I liked soft effeminate things, I would just do things differently. I would wear stockings and suspenders to work every day, work out at the gym at 4 p.m. without fail, brew chrysanthemum tea every day, and put a humidifier on the table. So yeah, guys, apparently brewing chrysanthemum tea, working out at the gym, and using a humidifier makes you effeminate, according to this dev. So there was that, and then another one of the artists on the team. He posted a picture of this character, and this character is basically a creature from Chinese mythology. So her head and upper body is like a woman, and the lower half of the body is like a terrifying snake.
Okay.
So someone, one of the technical artists, he said that this character. And I'm going to be a little explicit here. He said, oh, don't worry, guys. You can still jerk off to this character if you focus on the top half of her. And just, look at the top half. And he just casually made this, comment. So, yeah. And
yes, even
the
Nael's
previous...
cat is like, what the heck?
You ran away. I can't take this.
The previous thing I mentioned, this is by one of the I think it's one of the founding members. Let me double check. It's one of the co-founder, lead artist and co-founder, Yang Qi. He made this comment back in 2013, and then further controversy came after the game was released.
That one I'm familiar with. Yeah,
streamers, they got this. People who wanted to stream the game, they got this notice, if they stream the game, they're not allowed to talk about feminism. They're not allowed to talk about China, talk about politics,
or
COVID, and yeah, which was at first people were like, "Nope, this is fake. There's no evidence." But then journalists came out, and they said, "Nope, this is true.
Yeah.
Here's the."
To be clear, that was for the pre-release stuff, where
for the pre-release
before the game was available to the
and usually companies will say only stream until this chapter. And then, hey, don't do any spoilers. Don't talk about spoilers. This is common, right?
Yeah.
But they went don't talk about politics. Don't talk about China. All of these things. Now, despite this controversy, the game still sold extremely well. It broke a lot of records. But I still think it's kind of interesting and kind of hilarious. The dev team and it is I think they have something 100 members. So I'm not going to say every single person on the dev team is like this, but the fact that the co-founder is like this. And I just remembered, Game Science Studios, they had hiring ads, and their hiring ads, they look very straight up kind of incelish. They had one thing, it showed a kind of a overweight figure, and in Mandarin it said no fatties allowed. And then another picture, it showed the bottom half of a woman of her buttocks, and it was very sexual. And these are hiring ads basically that they put out. So
it's really strange, really weird.
Yeah, again, I don't think every single employee at this time, because they have a decent number of employees, but the fact that the co-founders and the
decision
people
makers who are greenlighting this kind of behavior.
Yeah, and or
just enabling it, or not even.
And just to be clear, I'm not Western developers are equally guilty of similar things. Let's not forget the Blizzard controversy.
Right.
Let's not forget what Riot Games has done. But yeah, it's another example of a lot of video game companies, and video games are technically software. Software companies have this frat boy style culture, kind of in the workplace and stuff.
Yeah, it's man, that was a lot. I didn't delve that deep into it. I just knew about the email or the notice that they sent out to the streamers pre-release that it's of the topics to avoid talking about. But here are three different statistics about Black Myth Wukong that I think are super surprising. One is, or not statistics, maybe just statements. One is that because the game came out on PS5 and PC, and
Yeah.
it was so much the PS5 was so much in demand in China that they actually have a shortage now in China of PS5s. That's how crazy it is. Second
Yeah.
is it broke the record for the most concurrent players, even though it's on an
Yes.
online game.
Yep.
But it was somewhere close to like 2.5 or 3 million players that were playing it at a time. And the third one is since Steam tracks a lot of different usage analytics into the statistics, very close to English. Simplified Chinese is now becoming an almost equally used language
Yep.
for the user interface for Steam, which I thought was like, wow. And that only happened recently and mainly because of Black Myth Wukong. Have either of you guys played the game at all?
I haven't. I want to eventually check it out because despite
That's your flavor, right?
I
Basically, like the difficult type, even though it's not a Souls like, it's like a challenging game with some good gameplay.
Big boss.
so yes and no. Like I do like Souls-like games, but I do like lore and Elden Ring, Souls, Lies of P. They still have lore. One of the cons I've heard about this game is that it is based off the Journey to the West. It's a very well-known like Chinese mythology about
It's
Wukong,
like
which
the
Goku in
original
Dragon Ball
One
Z.
Piece story.
Yeah,
Right.
no,
But
that's
bigger.
exactly it. Yeah, that's perfectly summarizes it. It takes place after that, but I've heard if you're not familiar with that Journey to the West story, you're going to be lost. You're kind of just going to be
okay.
like,
It.
okay, I go here, I guess. Okay, I fight this thing. All right.
I think it's the first big project in gaming that they've made around the Journey to the West, and
Yes.
I understand why it's so huge in China that they're selling out because
Yeah.
it's it kind of sits between their mythology and their past and their history. So it's like this mix of these three things.
And it's the first big major AAA game that's come out of
Yeah.
like China
Yeah,
in recent years.
I think
So,
that's because maybe I don't know. If I were to take a guess, maybe just the story is more like a part of the culture and the zeitgeist in China
Hugely.
that
It's
maybe
like
that they
yeah.
don't
the,
need. It's just contextual, where it's just they know the story already, so they just
the best
Yeah.
equivalent to us would be if they released a decent game about you know
Greek mythology.
like like God of War is the best
Yeah.
equivalent.
Mhm.
It literally
Yeah.
is a 1-for-1 equivalent.
That's a good
Definitely,
point.
there you
Actually.
go.
Actually,
Yeah.
I don't have
But
to
yeah,
think that hard about it.
I'll probably grab it. I will say usually if I'm interested in a game, I do separate the art from the artist. I do believe in
Yeah.
that strongly. Um,
Hmm.
but this didn't grab my attention so much, so I'll probably nab it when it's like on sale or something.
Okay.
And one last thing related to it, but I don't know
But
if it's like
you should
completely.
check it out, Faraj. I know you're a fan of God of War.
So I tried it out when my friend brought us PS5 with Gran Turismo
Mhm.
7 with PSVR. We did try out a little bit of Black Myth Wukong.
Yeah.
Because I was expecting somewhat Souls like combat at least. But even like I wouldn't even say it's close to God of War's combat. I don't know
Okay.
what it's similar to. It's definitely a style that takes some getting used
by
to.
Combat, you mean like just the
Like the
play
controls,
style,
the way the
technical-
character
the
moves,
technical
how you're
movements?
supposed to,
Okay.
because it's a lot of it is a lot of you not getting hit is based on dodging rather than parrying or blocking.
Yeah.
There's specific spells you use to parry, or there's one specific spell you use to parry where you turn into stone, and your opponent, as soon as they hit you, when you turn into stone, will be staggered, and you can use that. Like there's different things like that, and there is something I can see about that, but
it's a lot of chaining.
yeah, there is a lot of chaining, and I don't know, just it's a little. It's hard for me to explain what it's like, but it didn't grab me. Like my friend was, it could have been the fact that my friend was kind of overselling it, where he was like, "Bro, if you play this game, you'll probably want to get this game." And I'm like, "All right, we'll see." And then I played it, like, okay. I mean, it's not bad.
He kind of created
Yeah.
over expectations for
Exactly.
you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but although going back to something you said, Nael, that this is the first major game based around that story, that's actually not entirely true.
To my knowledge, yeah, but I guess it might not be true.
No, because there was one game that came out almost a decade ago, or more than a decade ago, Enslaved Odyssey to the West by Ninja Theory. Where I
Ooh.
mean, it's not like it's more of a retelling in like a modern futuristic post-apocalyptic tech world. And the main character you play, I think he's literally called Monkey.
Monkey King.
Um, no, but it's like his name in the game is Monkey, and
Gotcha. But he's
he's
based.
Oh, so it's like
He's
it's like a
based on.
retelling.
But he's
kind of
based
exactly.
on the
It's a
Monkey
retelling.
King.
It's not the actual
Okay.
like mythology
Gotcha.
It's not a
story.
1-to-1.
Yeah, and your main character is played by Andy Serkis. If you know,
And
if you like your Gollum and
Andy
Caesar.
Serkis just loves to hop behind the mocap.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And he's absolutely amazing in that role. I didn't once again another game that I haven't beaten, but I do own. Plays pretty well on the Steam Deck as well if you're interested. If it's still, I think it should still be available to purchase. But yeah, that's another good game.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not spend too much more time talking about Black Myth Wukong, because there was a kind of a topic that we wanted to get into, although it is also very relevant to what's going on
Mhm.
right now. Well, not going on right now, but it's something that recently happened. Let me start off by asking both Laughing Man and Nael about this. Um, uh, and maybe even the listeners too. I'm not sure of how familiar they are. Maybe they might be familiar with this game that
Mm-hmm.
recently came on called Concord. It was actually the announcement was actually not that long ago. How did you guys feel about the announcement for Concord?
You're talking about when it was first shown off at the PlayStation.
I think it was the PlayStation
Showcase.
State of Play.
State of Play.
So as soon as I saw the trailer, I was like, okay, I'm getting, Guardians of the Galaxy space
Mhm.
western vibes. Like kind of quirky characters and stuff
Mm-hmm.
from the trailer.
Yes.
And then as soon as they showed gameplay, I was like, man, why did this have to be a multiplayer game? Why couldn't it be a single player?
Like a hero shooter,
kinda
basically.
like a RPG, like a single player, but nope, this is a multiplayer game. And I
Yeah.
felt a little disappointed. Like a little let down, disappointed, because part of me was like, there's already a bunch of hero shooters. Like Overwatch is already. This isn't 2016 anymore, which is when Overwatch came out, and it was like, I
The
think
market
most
was
popular-
still fresh to bear.
Yeah, for all
kinds of
those hero
games.
hero
Yeah.
shooter types. Yeah.
And then recently, have you guys played or gotten the invite for Deadlock?
No,
The
not
Valve
yet.
game?
Not yet. I know it just
So
very
if-
recently got officially recognized because even Steam wasn't talking about it, but it had
Yeah,
more
it's
concurrent
in
players
it's in
than
public.
Concord.
It's in public alpha now.
Mhm.
I think I can, because I have access to it. I think I can invite you guys, but it
Sure.
takes like 24 hours.
Sure.
It's basically a MOBA shooter.
Mhm.
So there's 3 lanes, third-person shooter. It's everything MOBA, but it's like shooting basically. Concord is free. It's still an alpha. It's in pre-release.
You're talking about Deadlock, you mean?
Sorry, not. Brain. Deadlock is free.
Okay.
Yes.
Concord is not
Concord
free. We'll get
costs-
into that.
Concord is not free.
Mhm.
And Deadlock came into public recently. Around the same time Concord got released. So yeah, that to answer your question, those are my impressions. Kind of disappointment. Like, oh man, why is it a multiplayer hero shooter?
Yeah. Niall?
Yeah. The gameplay just didn't look very inspiring. It just looked to me like a cash grab from the very beginning. So I kind of wrote it off and forgot about it after the
Yeah.
showcase.
Have you ever played Niall? Have you ever played Destiny?
Destiny? I've played some Destiny 2. I didn't play Destiny 1.
Did you ever-
kind of the same thing?
Mm-hmm.
Did
I
you ever
figured.
play the PvP mode? Like, there's a PvP.
Yeah.
Okay. I've played Destiny. I've tried the PvP mode as well. I haven't played Concord, but this is just based off friends who've tried it. They said it's basically like that Destiny 2 PvP mode.
I mean, I enjoyed the Destiny 2 PvP.
See,
I thought it was pretty fun.
I enjoyed it as well, but I think it's because it's a small PvP mode in this more bigger PvE game that has these strikes and raids that you could do.
Yeah.
So it's a small part of it where it's like you could maybe go for it as a distraction. I know people that remain in Crucible, and I believe the guys behind Concord, some of them are ex-Bungie developers as well, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not entirely sure, but that wouldn't surprise me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, this was a hero shooter that has been. We're talking about Concord now. It's a hero
Hmm.
shooter that's been in development since even Overwatch was a thing when before that even came out.
It's almost 10
So
years.
almost 10 years at this point. They're releasing a game that requires online players, but there's no like just the way we all felt. Because even for me, as soon as I saw that, I was like, skip. I don't need to watch this. Definitely not a game I'm gonna get into. And I thought it was actually going to be free. Like I thought it was going to be a free to play game, but they're actually charging
So
people $40 US.
slight, just a slight correction. So I looked it up. It's been in development for around 8 years. So
Okay, eight
around the
years.
time Overwatch released, I'm guessing the development started
Mm.
because the
Okay,
devs saw the dev team, whatever, or the publisher.
It was
They
probably
saw
sitting in
the
their queue and they bumped it up.
yeah
maybe yeah. Or no, I think I read something about. I don't know if there's any. There have been any deep dives into the company itself as far as when it came up, but I have a feeling I'd be surprised if it was wrong if I was wrong about this, that some number cruncher just saw, oh my god, Overwatch is selling so well, all right, we got to
yeah.
have everyone just
Did you
hands on
have you
working on
guys
this.
ever played Game Dev Tycoon, that mobile game where you're like, or it's not just mobile, but like, Laughing Man, you know what I'm talking about,
I know what you're talking about.
right?
I
You
haven't played
like,
it myself, but I've
so
seen the
basically the idea is you
Twitch
just
streams of it.
kind of spin the wheel and select, okay, looter shooter, uh, Guardians of the Galaxy type characters, and
Oh,
just
so it's kind of like
output
Mad
a
Libs.
game. If
That
it
is
just feels like they ad lib the whole game.
that is precisely what everyone's been speculating. Because if it's been development for 8 years, that means they saw Overwatch, and then what also came out the next year after Overwatch, like the first Guardians of the Galaxy. I think it came out in 2017.
Oh yeah, the movie.
So look at the characters. So they thought, okay, people like Guardians of the Galaxy, they like a space western with
Actually, no. The first
humor.
Guardians of the Galaxy was 2014. Guardians 2 came out 2017, I believe.
My bad. Okay,
Yeah.
COVID, my sense of times
Yeah, I know.
picked it
It's
up.
completely warped, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that Guardians type humor was like kind of popular. People liked it, which is why, like, kind of slightly off tangent, the original Suicide Squad film. The team, the directors shifted it to be more humorous like that.
Yeah.
But it looks like they chased that, and they kind of if Concord was released 8 years ago, or like a couple years after Overwatch, I think it probably would have seen some success. But it's been 8 years. Overwatch cost money when it first came out. It was also $40, the
Yeah.
base edition.
Mm-hmm.
But now Overwatch 2 is completely free to play.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't cost money anymore. It can if you want the season battle pass, whatever. So it looks like they were stuck in this development cycle, and they failed to notice how the market has shifted, and people's interests have shifted as well, basically.
Yeah.
And
And
that seems to be a problem.
what's the reason for the long dev
Development time?
cycle? Yeah, because I feel
That's a
like
good question.
a game like this, it's $40 game, and it's just a shooter, MOBA shooter, right? It's MOBA shooter.
Not a MOBA
No, it's not
shooter.
a MOBA
Just
shooter.
it's a hero. There's no
Hero
lanes.
shooter.
It's
It's
basically a
hero
team
shooter.
deathmatch type.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like they're not. They typically don't take more than a year or two
So
in dev.
so
And
that's the thing.
even if they push it out to 3, right? Like, okay, it's a new game for the studio, whatever, new type, new people to hire. They're working on other things. I get it. It takes longer at 3 years, but this took 8 years. Like, what made it take so long?
You talked about Spider-Man a few minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out Insomniac Games explained how Spider-Man had like 100 million something budget.
Mm-hmm.
Now Spider-Man 2 I think it barely broke even.
Mm-hmm.
So there is like a discussion about like, and a lot
How
of people are
expensive it
having
is to
thoughts
make
about,
games.
and how long it takes. And
Okay.
is it, I think what's happened is with like photorealism, all AAA devs, this is a AAA game. It's a PlayStation Studios game. People are chasing like, oh, we need hyper realism, photorealistic graphics, and that chasing that, it is expensive.
Much more expensive. Yeah.
And I think that's what's causing like game. Oh, and a large portion of gaming budgets, that those high costs, is marketing.
Yeah.
Just like
Marketing
movies, yeah.
is exactly, and games
It's typically
nowadays
half the budget, yeah.
exactly. And marketing, it's like you got to get like, put ads on buses or like all of these things, and I think that's what's costing a lot. And yeah, it's as development starts 1 year and then it doesn't finish until like several years later, and by that time the fans have moved on. It's similar to how what was that one fighting game, it's with Nickelodeon and other characters and stuff.
Nickelodeon All Stars Brawl.
Multiverses.
Multiverses.
Oh, Multiverses. Okay.
Multiverses.
That's the one
Sorry,
where you
not
could have Tom and
Nickelodeon.
Jerry fight Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
It is funny though.
all these and a lot of companies are also trying to chase like the Fortnite, but I don't think that's going to happen again. Fortnite was like a lightning in a bottle moment, but all these companies, the publishers,
and they're like so many years ahead into being
Yes.
market dominance. Like,
Yep.
why
Right.
are you starting?
It-
Why are you starting this now? Why are you chasing this now? Why can't you read the trends anymore?
I saw
you know?
one commentator journalist mention how in the early 2000s you saw tons of MMOs pop up because everyone's like, we gotta copy WoW, we gotta
WoW
we
and
can emulate the
WoW and
success of WoW.
RuneScape. They're just everyone's playing. We need more of those.
Yeah.
The only one that succeeded was Final Fantasy 14. Guild Wars, I guess, somewhat as well, but it's what happens when you trend chase instead of just doing your own thing.
But
and
Final
focusing.
Fantasy, it came from such a big IP,
Yeah.
Like
And I heard it had a lot of growing pains as well, where it took a while to get to where it's at right now.
Oh,
from what I hear.
it was a failure at launch until Yoshi P, the current developer, came in and he told the team, play World of Warcraft. All of you play World of Warcraft.
and then come
And
back.
he redid the entire game from the ground up. But yeah, I think similarly right now, Concord is an example of they tried to chase trends when audience and market has moved on. Overwatch 2 has a steady player base, but it's not big like it once was in 2016.
Yeah, and it's not like it's growing at the rate that it did when Overwatch came out.
And Overwatch had
In its
colorful
early
characters. Leading up to release, Blizzard would release like those shorts telling the stories. Even people who didn't play it,
The
they were like,
marketing was very captivating for sure.
Yes.
when Overwatch launched, because there was hype like, oh, new characters are dropping, like lock it in, like new season,
Yeah.
And with Concord, people have said the characters don't look very interesting. They look
it's just a
little too
very
wacky.
uninteresting design. I remember there was one character that looked like I think it was actually in the MG Discord. Someone said, "Oh, this looks like a Space Marine from Warhammer, but you ordered it from Wish or something."
Yep.
There's another character that looks like something between Thanos and the Hulk.
Oh yeah, I seen that one.
Like I didn't get it.
Yeah, no, the cardinal sin about character development when it comes to something that's animated for a video game or a movie or show or cartoon character, whatever it is, it's been this rule of thumb where if you can't tell who that character is from its silhouette, then you got to go back to the drawing board.
They're a little too wacky. They tried to make it like wacky, zany, unique, but
it's wacky, but it's somehow managed to be wacky and generic at the same time.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't know how
Overwatch,
they managed to do that.
Overwatch
AI.
is wacky. You got a character Junkrat, you got a hamster piloting a mech. But this, I'm looking through the character roster right now. There's some interesting ideas. It's the colors.
It just
Honestly,
feels
it's the
bland. Yeah,
It's the colors. The colors are all over the place. Like, look at... Okay, there's literally a character called Starchild.
What about one-off as just a... Wait, let me see Starchild.
He looks nothing like
Duchess.
the Guardians of the Galaxy character, though.
Wait, is he supposed to be like Star-Lord?
No, he's a child, not a lord.
Okay. Oh, he looks like a mix between... Actually, it's more like Drax, the Destroyer, and Thanos.
But look at his
Drax,
color
not
scheme.
Hulk.
His shirt is all blue, The gloves are weird gray, and then his
Is that a
pants
shirt or
are
a
like.
skin? I can't even tell.
No, that's his skin.
Yeah, I thought it was a skin.
Okay, see,
That's
I-
what
I couldn't-
it's Drax, but blue, but his face is still red.
Prime example. I didn't
And
even know that was a skin.
and the other guy again, Guardians of the Galaxy, because he looks like what's his name with the Y?
Yondu.
Yondu.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
He looks
Oh
like
yeah,
him.
Lennox. Are you talking about Lennox? It looks like a cross between Yondu and Star Lord. Like it's got that like Chris
Okay,
Pratt smile, but it's got the Yondu mohawk.
the only character whose design, based on what I've seen, that I like because I think there's no weird color mismatch. Veil. Look at the character Veil.
Veil.
I like
just
her
saw Veil.
design. Simple, uniform color aesthetic. That's what you want. You want like look. I'm no designer like when it like colors things, but something about these characters. It looks like somebody took like several cans of paint and they just threw them randomly.
Picture, so the picture I'm looking at of Veil is actually very uninteresting.
Oh,
Or not interesting to me. Like just with the colors, it's like I don't know. She's wearing a puke green overcoat.
but it's not. What I'm saying. It's uniform. The bar is low here.
Right.
It's like a uniform color.
Okay.
Compared to, there's a lot of blue. So I'm quickly scrolling through all the characters. There's way too much blue and blue gray, like teal. If you notice, they overdid it on the blue color palette. Whereas look at Overwatch, you got a vibrant.
I think they tried to go for a softer color palette.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, the whole game, the whole vibe, it's a lot softer. Little like not a lot of blooms, not a lot of hard edges, and it just made everything look kind of flat.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, we have to talk about one character that's literally called One Off. That just looks like a yellow
the
trash
robot.
can. Yeah.
But the thing is, I kind of like that character because it actually looks like a fun.
It actually looks interesting.
It actually looks interesting.
The character that looks like a trash can is the most interesting visually interesting character.
Apparently, based on what I'm reading, he's a joyfully murderous robot, which kind of reminds me of HK-47 from KOTOR.
Mm-hmm.
So
I forgot about.
Oh man. But yeah, we actually didn't even get into. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Nael.
Speaking of, did you guys? We've been bashing on Guardians a lot. Did you guys play the Guardians game that came out a couple years ago? It was actually really fun to play. It was very good. Game.
See,
even
what's
though we've
funny?
been like racking on Guardians.
The thing I don't know.
It was actually well made.
No, I wouldn't say we're racking on
Guardians.
Yeah,
we're making comparisons.
We're racking on Walmart. Temu Guardians.
You're right.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
Walmart.
But yeah.
This is Walmart Temu Guardians.
The original
that's
Guardians movie, the Guardians game. It was good material.
No, even like if you guys have seen the third Guardians movie, I really loved it. I absolutely loved it.
I haven't seen the third one. I saw the second one.
Yeah, it's one movie. Like I've been stopping going to the theater just because of how expensive it's been getting. But that's one movie that actually had me thinking, man, this would have been great to watch in the theaters compared to everything else Marvel's been putting out. Which let's not get into that. But the Guardians game. Funny to me about that? What's funny to me about the Guardians game is right before that. What was the game that Square Enix put out? That was Marvel themed, or that was using
the Crystal
Marvel
Dynamics,
license.
the Avengers,
the Crystal Dynamics Avengers. Same publisher, and for some reason they decided to make an Avengers game that was also a live service looter shooter, not looter shooter, but it's a looter type game.
It was effectively a looter shooter.
Yeah, but it's like why? You know,
I remember when I first saw the trailer for that, I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be like a single player, like a linear single player like thing."
Because that made sense.
Yeah. And I was excited. It has Kamala Khan, one of the Muslim superheroes made by G. Willow Wilson, who's also Muslim herself. And then I saw.
I thought it was Sana Amanat.
It was co-created by the two of them.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're accurate. She's not the sole creator. It was co-created by both of them.
Okay.
But yeah. And then I saw it was a looter shooter, and I lost interest. And then I heard how grindy it was. You have to replay the same missions over and over to get certain things.
And the end game got super repetitive as well.
Yeah.
And even the character designs were like, because, we're used to seeing the Avengers, and this was just a very uninteresting version of the Avengers. And compare that to Guardians of the Galaxy, which they decided to release that as a single-player game. And super well
received. Which is what Avengers should have been.
Exactly.
Which is what Avengers should have been.
Yeah. It's sad that you can't even play the Avengers game now because they took the servers offline. Which
wait, there's no offline mode?
There's no offline mode.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and yeah, and the game was out for a while before they took it offline. So people that put their money into it, they're not getting it back. Whereas for Concord, on the other hand, the game came out exactly when? How long has it been out? It's not
2
even a
weeks?
Two
week, two
weeks.
Like
weeks.
2 weeks, and it's
Yeah,
shutting down this Saturday.
yeah. So 2 weeks was just for context for people that might be listening at a different time. 2 weeks ago was maybe around the week of the 21st of August, and we're
Some
recording right now on the 4th of September. And this Saturday is basically the 7th. So yeah,
yeah.
the game basically lasted about 2 weeks. There are these super ambitious trophy hunters on PlayStation that are trying to get their platinum trophy before they're not able to play the game anymore. And I believe one of you guys mentioned before we started recording too is that they're actually
I think they're doing
all like
refunds.
25,000 people that bought the game are actually getting their refunds.
Which is good. That it's good on the dev team, like they're refunding it because people paid money and they're not
Mhm.
getting the product. Now,
Yeah.
speaking of Avengers, I was just curious, so I just quickly searched on Steam, and the only result that comes up is Lego Marvel
Hmm.
Avengers.
Listen, don't disrespect that game. It was
It's
also very
actually
fun.
I'm
yeah,
not. I'm not. The Lego games have all
yeah,
generally been
yeah.
solid.
Because I think that
That
one
was
is
a really
supposed to be
fun
like
one.
based around the first movie, right? The Avengers movie.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's more like
Oh, yeah,
you go
they
kind
always
of
add a lot
all
more.
over with Lego, like with the Lego
Yeah.
one, you just went all over the universe, and you could play like a gajillion different characters. It was such a big game, and on top of it, they had like DLC to add like other parts of the Marvel universe
Yeah.
that weren't in the original game. So it was such a huge game.
And let me guess, you can also play it single player without needing an internet connection. It's not live service based,
Hmm.
so it's
Yep.
I don't know why a lot of games are just going for that live service
Just play
model.
Lego Marvels. You'll be
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah, so
So
I was one of the unlucky souls that did play the Marvel Avengers game, but that luckily it was because I had a Game Pass at that time, so I just got to try it out through it. And I was like, okay,
Oh,
this is
so
it was
you didn't
kind
really
of
lose
interesting.
anything.
Yeah, I
As
didn't
aside
lose
from
anything
some
other than the
time.
time that
Yeah.
I spent playing that game, but I didn't
Yeah.
even get that far because the story, while it was interesting, once I got to the gameplay, I'm just like, this just feels generic. Like, just think of good games like Thor, basically controlled like Kratos from the newer God of War games, 2018 and up, but not as good. And Black Widow felt like, I don't know, just a random third person action adventure, melee combat specialist, not as much fun. Hulk felt like, just Hulk, like the
Tank.
other Hulk games, but there's other Hulk games from back then that you can play that I think play better than Hulk did in the Avengers game. The only one that felt somewhat interesting was playing as Kamala Khan,
Hmm.
as Miss Marvel herself. So, um, yeah, I'm not sad that that game died. At the same time, I'm not sad that Concord died either because the studios
It
need
was
to learn.
inevitable.
Yeah,
Yeah, and they
I'm
need to
sad for
learn.
the I'm sad for the devs who worked on it and now like they might,
Their division might get reshuffled or
might get
that's
axed
the
or
unfortunate
something.
part.
Yeah.
axed. Yeah.
It's the unfortunate part of this business. Yeah, it's sad. I mean, it's just when you look, it's just such a weird industry when you look at how where the money is going and how people are spending their money. I don't know how much of you guys watch or follow any of Pirate Software at all. Jason Thorhall.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he has his own.
The former Blizzard guy, and he made
Yeah,
some
he
games.
was former Blizzard, former Amazon Game Studios as
Yeah,
well. So he worked on, I want to say it was StarCraft 2, like at least a part of it. I don't know if he
I
did QA or whatever, but
think
he
so. Yeah.
was a part of that team. And he said that when they released one of the first cosmetic mounts, or I can't remember what it was some cosmetic DLC that they released for World of Warcraft, that made more money. That DLC alone, I think it was $10 or $20, made more money than the entirety of StarCraft 2.
Yeah, I think I saw a clip of him saying that.
Yeah, and it's just everyone just trying to chase that trend, and there's whales that exist that will spend that money on games just to buy the cosmetics, and everyone's trying to chase that. And when everyone does it, it's not special anymore.
I think it's fine to sell cosmetics, but it was one thing when it was just cosmetics, but now it's like everything. It's
Characters.
Yeah.
characters,
Mm.
aspects of the game. You got the whole game on a CD.
Mm-hmm.
Like We don't have that anymore. Now you get
Exactly. And even when you if
even
you
and
download even if you're
and
downloading
now
the game files are there. They're just not unlocked for
and they're
you.
just not unlocked. Or
Yeah.
on top of that, worse yet is now the last couple years has been games are released and then they're like, we'll fix it live.
Hmm. That's just
You
the
know?
agile development
It
style.
it's leaking into other industries, like some BMWs. You have to pay a subscription
Hmm.
to unlock the car, the seat
The seat
heater,
warmer, yeah.
the seat
Yeah, I
warmer.
mean,
Mhm.
or
And now there's jailbreaking tutorials for the BMW.
yep,
I think
Because
there's
you bought the
jailbreak.
thing, you should have it already.
yep. No, well, Volvo did it in an interesting way because Volvo has it too. They did okay. You get everything in the car, but the mobile app you only get free for 2 years. So if you want to do anything off the
Okay.
mobile app, then you have to pay a subscription. Which I
Okay.
was like, okay,
Okay,
fair.
yeah.
You know, I
There,
still have access to everything in my car, but then this additional,
Right.
little service, little fee, then okay,
Right.
I can pay for that.
It's not something that's physically already installed in
No,
the car.
or
Yeah.
yeah, like how Tesla is, where it's just
so
walk.
I joked about the jailbreaking. I looked it up. There are actually guides to
Ah,
hack.
Wait, you
100%.
no? I would have thought it was real for sure. This moment you mentioned it, because come on, man, that's it. Just
It's
yeah,
physically there. It's just locked by
exactly.
software.
It,
I
it,
paid for the
Yeah.
car.
yeah, no, it brings about that whole argument for
You wouldn't
piracy. Not that
download a
I'm
car,
not that I'm
would you,
endorsing
Niall?
piracy, but
I
where people
might.
say
I
if you no
just might.
longer, yeah, but if where they say that
Yeah.
if buying something digitally is no longer owning it, then piracy is technically not stealing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not that we're condoning piracy. Just
Yeah.
got
I
to be
mean,
clear
most
about that.
if you read the end user agreements and most of these, you're not actually owning it.
Yeah.
You're
Hmm.
leasing their right to indefinitely have access. And
Yeah,
indefinite is not indefinite, as we've seen in a lot of media spaces with, people writing off a lot, like Warner Bros. Sorry, Cartoon Network, right? Just getting written off and things like that.
yeah.
It'll happen with
RIP cartoonnetwork.com.
it'll happen with your Steam libraries too at some point.
Here's the thing. Even if you own a physical copy, a lot of physical discs don't even
Modern physical discs are just your
you
DRM.
in,
Like
it's
it's the key to unlock your game
Right.
or your
and
download.
and someone might say, oh, but with a physical copy, if my internet goes out, I can still play it.
No.
Yeah, an unpatched version of the game without
Yeah.
any of the updates.
And even then, some of these games they just cheap out where it's like you don't actually have the game, you just have access to it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like with Star Wars Outlaws, I believe it needed
Constant
a
connection.
not no, no, it wasn't a constant connection, but it was a mandatory day one patch where the game wouldn't work without it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah, man. It's it's a weird industry. It's a weird time we're living in where when I got back to my PS3 and played some games on there, it felt nice to not have that. I mean, it was kind of the start of that era
Yeah.
where it's like you're required to always be online. But I liked being able to play Gran Turismo 6 on my PS3 without needing to be connected to the PSN. But on my PS4, Gran Turismo 7, when I lost internet connection going to my garage, it just decided to stop. Or not. The game is designed to where you can't even play it because it's a live service type game. It needs constant online connection. So it's tough. Man, what a note to end the episode on.
We didn't have a formal topic, but I feel like we had a lot to get off our chest about.
Yeah.
Game
We also
studios.
don't want to go too long. I mean, we're already
Yeah.
past the 1 hour, 13-minute mark. We're already longer than our last episode, but I feel like we did have a really, really good episode here.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Laughing Man.
Oh, I was just gonna say, even though we went slightly over the 1 hour mark, I think we touched upon a lot of good, interesting topics. A lot of stuff for people to think about and chew on.
Absolutely, 100%. And you know what, listener, viewer, if you made it this far, thank you so much for sticking around. A reminder, if you haven't already done so, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform of choice. Leave us a comment if possible. I believe on a lot of podcast platforms, you can even leave us a review. Reach out to us. Let us know your feedback. We'd love to hear from you. If we suck, you want us to improve, there's specific things we could do to improve. Any suggestions you have, we'll take that feedback. And if you think we're doing great and you just want us to keep putting out more of these episodes, we'll keep doing that too. We'd love to hear from you. maybe sometime in the future. Right now, we're on a once a month schedule of releasing episodes. Hopefully, inshallah, in the future, we'll be doing something a little bit more frequently, and there might even be some possibilities of live episodes where you could join us on chat. So, yeah, definitely be on the lookout for that. Laughing Man, Nael, any other closing remarks you want to add here?
No, thanks for spending the night with me, evening.
Yeah,
Or
thank you for
whenever
listening.
people are
Whenever
listening.
people.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening, and play games and enjoy them.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys. Assalamu alaikum.